Welcome to the Friendlyjordies Podcast. I hope everyone's had a great week. Thanks for joining us again.
Good on you, everyone that did that.
That's right.
Subsequently.
Awesome.
And thank you for joining us in our brand new studio that seems to have a large patch of white wall in the background. And I'm not sure that we can do anything
It's
about
called
that.
New and Improved. That's what it's called.
Ali, come on, that's
patch wall?
pretty public hospital with the curtain. Come on, there's a Russian behind us screaming about having a bad hernia.
Why would you say that just when we started the pod? You could have said it before so we could change it a little bit.
Next
Yeah,
time.
I could have.
Hey, Miss, actually, could you do something? Could you
want me to
reduce
do
the
it?
brightness of
Oh,
that
yeah.
big light? Maybe
That
that'll
one?
help it. Yeah, the big one.
Too pale?
Yeah. Hey, should we start with, Jordan, what do you think will work better with the algorithm? Should we start with Lidia Thorpe or should we start with China and Australia trade wars?
China and Australia trade wars. Obviously, that's what everyone's going to click on for sure.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good.
A very abstract idea where we have no inside information.
I don't know, man. Like,
You
it's,
think you've got an insider, do you?
and that's it.
Well, at least we topped the Kramer painting falling down.
What happened?
I don't know what happened.
What, is it dead?
It's fine.
How is there water?
That's not water.
What is it?
Don't worry. Fuck.
Oh my god, it was
Hey,
booze.
look, we do it live. This is what we get. This is what we get.
Why did that happen? And
I'm gonna turn
let's
your
be honest,
mic
it'll
off.
probably happen every episode. There we go. Yep, great. Awesome.
What is going on? Why is
This
there?
is perfect. Well, at least that one was water. It's getting better. All over the books that I need to read.
Oh my god. I'm blaming you guys. It was
I
fine.
just sat down.
Well, does that
Yeah,
make
it works.
sounds?
It does. Okay, so what happened is, Jordan, Lydia Thorpe was, first of all, this in itself is so fucked up, but she was at a strip club for her 50th birthday. Apparently, so
Females or males?
a male, female, what? Gentleman's club.
She was at a gentleman's club.
She was at a gentleman's club celebrating her 50th. We see a video. I'll actually play a sound clip of this video.
Lydia Thorpe isn't a lesbian, is she?
No.
Nah, definitely
What's
not.
she doing there? How does that get her going?
Good question. But like the more important question is not what she was doing there. That's a legitimate question, but also what did she do there on her 50th? Okay, check this out. Hold up.
Senator Lydia Thorpe has been handed
Hey,
a
wear your
lifetime
headphones.
ban from a Melbourne strip club following a
there. But you probably could have warned me about this, but it seems that everything's back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we are.
A racist song. You are the racist song. Man's call me a white hog.
And you know what I say? You know what I say to you?
Shut up.
You know what I say to you? And you?
Yeah, say it to everyone. Hey, welcome to please someone record this thumbs up.
That you either have a
Okay, so what happens is, I don't know how much of that you got, but what
Is
happened is
Lydia Thorpe a Hauser?
Yeah.
she basically is at this point.
It's
So
crazy.
She is at this point.
She picked a fight with someone, right? And she's screaming at all the men, small penis, small penis, small penis. And then she's getting pissed off at Aboriginal guys that are with white women saying like, if you're going to hang around with this C word, then you're a disgrace. And she just goes insane, right? And then they say so they question her the next day saying like, hey, what the hell was that about? She said, I was provoked. The strip club gives her a lot.
Strip club.
The strip club
It's a
gives
I
her
like how
strip
this is
club.
the authoritative source. This is the voice of reason.
Yeah, the strip club gives her a lifetime ban, and she's saying she was not provoked. She was the one who instigated it.
Senator!
It's insane.
The strip club owner says this is how this was provoked. She got drunk and started going on every table at the strip club and started screaming at all the men, saying like, "You stole my land! You stole my land!"
Fucking hell.
And that's
In a
when
strip club, it's like there's other things to accuse people in strip clubs of that are like a lot more legitimate.
like what?
Like
Also,
You
what
wank
is she?
off in the corner a lot?
Do people? I
What are you
suppose that
doing
happens.
here? Go back to your family?
That's his business, all right?
But what is happening? This like meltdown for everyone to view.
You know, it's incredible.
So mental.
Remember how everyone was saying, is Kevin Rudd fit to be in office after being at a strip club once? Yeah, well, it seems like he was fairly polite when he was there. How far we've come. It's really remarkable to me that Lidia Thorpe thinks that it's acceptable to behave like this as a senator. And I've got to say, what's even more remarkable is she's right. Keep it coming.
Dude, good on her.
I really
She's
like it.
Keep
definitely
the gold rolling in.
she is a one person army at this
She
point.
is. Like, I don't know. It's not policy to do that.
So what happens to her now? Like, what's
She's
her
the
future?
senator here. She'll decide.
That's true. Maybe she's playing 4D chess.
Do you think she'll?
As she was screaming in the strip club, show some respect.
To randoms. And then she got banned from the strip club. Like, that's not good optics in the very least.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I mean?
incredible because I'd imagine that a lot of guys have been very drunk at strip clubs and they'd be like, get out, but come back tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Imagine what you would have to do to get a lifetime ban
So mental.
on your birthday.
And then rolling into Parliament the next day being like, I had a big night. Like, what?
But having said all of this,
Insane.
she still looks pretty good for someone in their 50s.
Yeah, you got to say that.
It was her
I didn't know she was in her
looks better than
50s.
most of the strippers there.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know she was in her 50s. That changes things.
Like, it was her 50th
It's a bigger
birthday.
5-0.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Okay, well, in that case, yeah,
Dude,
look.
she does not look a day over 42.
Yeah, I know. Good on her.
fair,
Which
I'll
is
pay that.
bizarre because she
Pretty good.
leads such a rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah.
How is she managing that?
Yeah.
It's so rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah,
more
make-
rock and roll.
We've really got to go into this. Like, have the Sex Pistols been banned?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think so.
Their advice to her is like, take it easy, take it slow. Pace yourself, girl.
So wild.
So what happens to, like, what's her political future? Do you think, like, some
I think
people...
it just keeps going from strength to strength.
you reckon, like...
I'm telling you now, I was saying this in the pre-show. You can sign up just to verify this, but look, I'm a strong Labor man, but I'm putting a solid one next to Lidia if I move to Victoria.
Finally.
Look, I know I was
Finally.
just saying that, like, voting for the meme is a bad idea in the last podcast, but I'm going to have to contradict myself. Sometimes the meme is too good. You're making it hard.
Finally brought you over to the independents. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to vote for her, too, if I could.
Well, I'm just going
Don't
back.
you think, like, after it's something in us that's really Australian, that as soon as you hear that a politician goes to a strip club, your response is, yeah, lad.
Hell yeah.
What a king.
Yeah.
They're just living their life.
Yeah, it's like the French with affairs.
Yeah.
As
Hell yeah.
Aussies really like hearing that a politician goes to a strip club, and I'll even go further than this, rub and tug.
Yeah.
If you went to a rub and that's just funny.
Has
man.
that ever been a thing? Has some politician been caught at a rub and tug?
Surely.
For sure they would.
They'd have to.
I'm guessing that guy, that got the wine bottle, the bribe. You know, what's his name?
Yeah, how could Barry O'Farrell not have gotten a rub and tug in his life? It's impossible.
It's like it was in his policy for sure.
Yeah, wasn't
Definitely.
there like a friend of yours? I can't remember if it was a friend or someone that you just knew whose job it was to like go to different rub and tug
Hey, I'm right here.
spots.
I'm right here. You don't have to expose it. I'm joking. I'm
Was it
joking.
you?
What did they do?
Their job was literally to test out if they get offered a rub and tug
At different massage
in different
parlors.
places. Because if they do offer a rub and tug, then they're like in violation of whatever license they have. So he's like,
furthermore, had to get the rub.
yeah, he has to get. So he's like getting jerked off.
Damn, where do you
while he's,
sign
like,
up for that
making
job?
mental notes despicable. Anyways, continue.
That's look, despicable. But if there's any places going, let me know.
Only place where you can just pass off your rub and tugs as a business
As
expense.
a, tax expense.
Yeah, tax-free rub and tugs. That man's living the life.
Now, the question is, honestly, I know that Lidia Thorpe has degraded the institution of the Australian Senate beyond repair. But is it worth it? I'm going to say yes.
It's a tough
Dude, no
one.
one cares about the Senate anyways. Like, it's fine.
Well, I've always been a strong proponent of banning it entirely, and then we wouldn't have this problem
Oh wait,
in the first
is
place.
she in
Dude,
this-
I reckon don't even ban it. Just keep it full of crazies. keep the normal parliament, just like straight and normal people that like, are working for the country and shit. But Senate, just buffoons all over.
Well, it always has been, really.
Wait,
It's just not as colourful.
Wait, is she in the Senate with Penny Wong?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's just a circus anyway. Live it up. I didn't know she was in the Senate.
Yeah.
I thought she was in the
Why?
real one.
Why is it a circus of Penny
Yeah, Penny
Wong?
Wong's involved.
Dude,
No,
she's
no,
like-
I don't mean that.
She's the real
No, I don't
clan.
mean that. I don't mean that. I just mean the Senate
You
is...
and Paul Keating sometimes need to tone it down a little
No,
bit.
no, no. I just mean the Senate is a
bashing
circus.
recently.
Like, I thought the Senate was like show and tell. Like, you bring in your Lego and they're like, that's very nice, Miss Wong. And they sit down. Isn't the Senate just a bit of fun? A bit of a joke?
I mean,
More or less.
More or less.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that.
But why do you not like Penny Wong? What's your
No, I
thing
do like
against
Penny
her?
Wong. I like Penny Wong. I'm just saying she's in the Senate and the Senate is a joke, right? That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's not supposed. I'm saying let's make it a joke.
I think it is already a joke.
Can we just also point this out as well? How does anyone take the Greens seriously? I know that she's out of it, but they brought her in, I think, as number one on their ticket for Victoria.
Yeah, that's pretty
It has
wild.
to say something about the Greens as a party, that is even that no one at any point thought, let's put her down to number two. That first and foremost, she's getting in.
Yeah, but like to be fair, she has disassociated herself from the Greens.
I know, but
Yeah, she
like
has.
it doesn't. You opened up Pandora's box. You are the guys that put her in there. So are you going to take any responsibility for that at all?
Yeah, no, they definitely should take some responsibility.
Come on.
for that.
Yeah,
It's
they've
like-
definitely changed from the Bob. What's his name? Bob
Catter?
Catter from the Bob Catter days. It's definitely moved a lot from like just gum trees,
Yeah, the same rule applies. You know how like one of your mates, when they introduce another guy into the friendship group and that new person is just an absolute... And so who gets the blame? The guy who introduced that person to the group.
Yeah,
We're not giving Greens that kind of blame.
it's a fair point.
Yeah.
It's a fair point.
It's got to... Come on.
I think I'm
This
pretty
has
sure
to
like...
do something to their polling, surely.
I'm sure behind closed doors, like every time some Labour or Liberal guy looks at them, they're always like, I'm sorry, we f***ed up with this one. But I say keep the entertainment coming. I appreciate it at least, and I'll vote for Lydia Thorpe for sure. Any day. I'm not even saying it as a
Labour have
joke.
had enough love. It's time to move to the independents. You guys vote for her, and I'll vote for what's his name, Paul.
She does
Hogan.
actually just up the ante in a long, proud tradition of a bunch of psycho independents in the Senate.
Yeah.
Because it's always been a thing of that's where you leave the doldrums that are owed a favour. The Senate used to always... You know what the Senate used to be called for the Labor Party? The pension package.
Oh.
That's what it was for. It was for a bunch of old people that had been in the unions for a long time and they thought, yeah, Jeff's been... I feel bad. Go on, just chuck him in there.
Let Jeff ramble off in the Senate about like Marmite's actually better than Vegemite.
And he did for many years.
Did he actually?
Yeah, absolutely.
Shit.
Have you ever watched the Senate, Ali? Have you ever watched them come in with their little speeches?
Sometimes,
They do come in with
yeah.
show and tell, like with their little scarves or
yeah.
some item that they have in their hand.
It is show and tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a lot sadder when it's 60-year-olds in suits.
So show and tell for $400K a year.
All right, enough Lydia Thorpe bashing.
Who's bashing? I'm not.
Yeah, we're not bashing. We're
She's
just
the one that's bashing.
we're just observing.
Just randomly.
She's such a goer.
Passionate.
All right, okay, let's talk about the China and Australia trade war supposedly
beer
has
thing?
just ended.
Is this the beer thing?
Bali, yes.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So what's happened is that China had put tariffs on Australian barley and wine and a few other things in coal they actually, in some cases they straight up banned it, but they put extra tariffs on it. And Australia had filed a case in international arbitration against it because there's a rule if you're a member of the World Trade Organization, then you can't sell a country's products at a disadvantage, which China was doing with Australia. And China has basically they went through this mediation process and they've resolved the issue. It seems like China's about to lift all the tariffs on barley, bring them back to what they used to be, and the next thing is wine. And there's this, apparently, according to Penny Wong, the trade wars might just end now, and they're going to start accepting our coal again. They kept taking iron ore, and so the question then becomes, why is China doing this? If you trust ABC journals, like what's his name, Ian Virander, what's his name?
I don't know. Some schmuck.
His thing was, did you notice that this coincides? Because like the one point of view was like, oh, so China is sort of reforming its view on this hawkish foreign policy again, and the ABC journal's views are, did you notice that this perfectly coincides with China doing a drill into Taiwan, and what they're really doing is they want to ensure that they keep getting iron ore, and they're going to use that iron ore to the Taiwanese up the butt. And Australia, unlike France that has developed this neutrality pact, is not going to be able to do that because Australia will have to make a decision immediately when the attack on Taiwan happens whether we're going to give them iron ore or not. So gotcha, this means nothing.
Look, as always,
fair and
come on,
balanced.
ABC, you're just filling up airtime, aren't you? This vague anti-China secret. That is such a great summary of ABC 24. Exactly what you said. That on repeat.
No, but like straight up, those were their points. If you listen, and then
but they're just such nothing points, aren't
no,
they?
they're full of shit. Then there's this other view, which is like the less hawkish people in China. They're like, oh, China is doing this because they want Australia to be an advocate to include China into the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And so China's basically trying to seek an ally for their inclusion, which is not a bad thing if you think about it.
Who's including them in it? Isn't the entire point of the Trans-Pacific Partnership to keep China out?
Yeah, it is. But China wants to be a part of it.
Yeah, of course they do. And you know what? Kevin Rudd, I love how he just plays dumb on the whole thing. He's like, hey guys, I got a good idea. How about we just include China in the Trans-Pacific Partnership? Just include them.
Yeah.
He's always pushing that.
Dude,
He
it
knows
would
what
be...
he's doing, and it's a good move.
Yeah, but again, if we start advocating that, the Americans are going to be like, hey, shut the fuck up.
Right. Yeah, of course.
We're not going to do that.
No,
we
no.
made this entire thing to counter China.
Don't we need their sweet shekels though for our economy?
Dude, not only do we... there's a more practical view as to why China is doing this in the first place. China's global trade is $900 billion more than the U.S. now.
Jesus.
If there's a trade disruption, they're the biggest losers of it.
That's like
we
mainly
also
Transformers toys, right?
Mostly. We also know, but China's incentive of becoming a Trans-Pacific Partnership is that they're the largest producers of green technology. So solar batteries and they also depend on Australia for rare earth minerals that they're going to have to use to develop all of this. So they want to sell that to the world. And so they want to be part of TPP for that, which is understandable. But there's another reason why China might have softened their approach in this trade war. Firstly, we know that their coal ban kind of failed. It failed spectacularly. As soon as they did that, they had a massive coal shortage. And this was like during their lockdowns of COVID, and there were cities in China that went into a blackout. Do you think that would have an effect on it, maybe? Then also, it's kind of sometimes the problem for China vis-a-vis Australia is like all of what we're exporting to them is really inelastic. It's not shit. Maybe barley and wine is something that they can like choose not to get, but most of the bulk of our exports they can't live without. So they know that they can't leave Australia, and so they have to develop a cozier relationship with them. And if they do this, they might. And actually, one of the bigger points is that we know that the public sentiment in China is very pro-labor. They love the Labor Party. When Albo got elected...
Far out, Dutton was right.
I knew it all
No, but
along.
like straight up, WeChat had these weird stories of like... They love Kevin Rudd as well, right? Because Kevin Rudd can speak Mandarin, so they think like he's amazing. When Albo got elected, there were rumors. Well, I would say rumors because they weren't true. They were calling Albo little brother of Kevin Rudd, and they also were saying he's also fluent in Mandarin.
Huh?
He's also fluent in Mandarin.
Not true though.
No, it's absolutely neither is he Kevin Rudd's little brother.
How
What
do
the
we
hell?
know?
Yeah, maybe he does.
Albo's actually dude. That guy's fluent in drinking beer. That's all he's fluent in.
So
Yeah. And he's even rusty on that. He's
Yeah, he's
practicing.
exactly. He's all skinny and shit. He's dropping the ball.
I think it's more politically palatable for the Chinese government to soften their trade approach to a Labour government. They can sell that easy, as opposed to Liberal Party. And let's not forget the reason when these tariffs were placed in the first place was just after Australia spearheading this movement to launch a COVID investigation campaign in the world to find out whether Wuhan virus came from a lab or a lab.
Well,
Gotcha.
there's nothing wrong with that. But
I mean, but it does antagonize them.
it does. It's a bad move. But I was like, I want the results. But yeah, fair. It was a dumb thing to do.
Yeah, but I also think Australia should advocate for their inclusion in Trans-Pacific Partnership. Even if nothing happens, it's just a confidence-building measure. If we're going to do confidence-building measures with the U.S., right, we're getting these hundreds of billions of dollars worth submarines, we can do a little bit by saying, hey, maybe we should let China in. Even if it gets accepted or not, that kind of an advocacy for China in that global arena will definitely,
Goes a long way.
Did you guys see the Did you see there's footage of this guy in Parliament? I think it's the guy, the black dude from the IT crowd. He's just in Australian Parliament for some reason.
Yeah.
And he's advocating, What's that? What's the deal with him? And why is he in our country?
He's in the Greens.
Oh,
That's
he's a
all I know
Greens,
about him.
right,
And then I
okay.
just remember him saying, Orthonists.
Yeah.
The Liberal Party are orthonists.
But it's just you
And I was
should
just
be advocating
damn. Season 5 is nowhere near as well written as season 4.
Yeah, it's a bit flat. The Brexit campaign's that way. What are you doing here? I don't even disagree with what he's saying, but I'm like,
wait, what
did you get
is
lost here? How are you in Parliament?
I don't know anything
and
about
aren't you
this.
supposed to be on 7 out of 10 taps?
You're on the wrong, exactly. You're on the wrong channel.
You're on a show.
Yeah, you just got really mixed up. You're on the wrong program.
Wait, what is he advocating for again?
He's basically the voice of reason, really. You could say, right, for AUKUS. I mean, I don't disagree with what he's saying. It's just
Wait,
annoying.
he's going against AUKUS?
Yeah,
The guy from IT crowd.
No, he's not literally the.
He's
him,
literally
though.
the guy from the IT
He
crowd.
speaks and looks exactly like him.
Who are we talking about?
I don't know
The
his
guy
name.
from the IT crowd. I don't know his name,
I don't
but
know
he's
his
a
name.
senator from WA in the Greens.
He's in Parliament, and I'm yeah, what you're saying, you're speaking truth, but who are you? How'd you get here? It's really confusing. I don't get it at all. Anyway, I just thought, I don't know.
And also, Ali, just because I'm on the subject, as I was just going through Das Kapital again, right? And I was listening to this lecturer talking about it, and he keeps using the example of Deng Xiaoping opening up China to the idea of accumulating capital. And here's what I'm wondering. He was well aware of the evils of opening up capital, but there is also this argument that if you do that, that's the only way really to get to a place where capital is no longer necessary. Was that his kind of argument about doing it?
No, I think he was just is the idea. I think he was off the view. He was just a soft. He was a center left dude. So he was saying that capitalism in its purest form is
Marxian theory, because I
No,
didn't
he
realize
did.
this, but man, the Chinese are so much more educated than us.
No, he
in
definitely
primary
does.
school, you learn about Das Kapital there. In primary school.
Wait, what is that again? Is that a Marxist thing?
it's a
And that really shows the reason why we seem to be losing the trade war at the moment. Well, a mid-30s Australian man. Interesting. What's Das Kapital?
I didn't hear Tucker Carlson talk about that this week. Fuck.
It just means that
Fuck.
capital. It's a Marxist book.
Okay. I picked it. Marxist. I got it.
It is amazing. Ali, you got to go back and read it again, because I think I'm in the same trap as you. It is amazing going back and rereading it as not an 18-year-old and still being like, he does talk about corn and a lot.
There's a lot of
But
corn
if
talk.
you take
and
away the corn, if you just, I know that's pretty much half the book, but if you take away just that mentioning,
It's Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. It's like just take away the corn.
I got the golden ticket.
I got the gold. That's the bourgeoisie. I got the golden ticket.
Yeah.
No, dude.
but I do think that. I think that you should go back and read it as a 30-year-old. You should. No
Or
one.
for the first
I know
time.
that every dickhead first year uni like myself and Ali think like they get it back. You don't,
Dude,
You
it's-
don't get
it's
it. And
very-
I'm not even saying I get it. I bet you I'll go back and read it at 50 and just Jesus, what was I thinking?
It's a hard read. There's no doubt. I remember reading it at 17 as well. It's like a lot of it is math, which I hated at the
Jesus.
time. But
Yeah.
the Deng Xiaoping point is, I think, like, so what he was saying is, like, he still countered the American point of view of the complete free market. He said that capitalism should be guided and should be controlled by the state, but it should flourish in like
Yes,
a
but he
microcosm.
understands the overarching argument that Marx was getting to, which is that at some point the tail starts wagging the dog. This is just the nature of, I hate these words, but capitalism. So when you start making a society that starts abstracting from actual value in terms, he's pretty much just saying once you move away from bartering, really, and then you have this little intermediary thing called money that kind of guides it, and then you start making all these markets where you just get more money to do things, and you have this idea of, oh, okay, we'll use this abstract idea to start moving these commodities around easier. As soon as that starts happening, the actual items themselves start controlling society. It's actually the same way that they're arguing, did we, go full circle with corn, did we domesticate corn or did corn domesticate us?
Totally.
I think that that's what he's saying about money.
I think like so the best he is saying that about money because like if you think about it, like he comes from a time when if you look at the opening up of the wool trade in Britain, so Britain used to be like, like any other medieval society, right? You had farmlands, there used to be a lord, and then there'd be like serfs that worked on that farmland.
And he seems to be more cool with that system than the system he's critiquing.
Yeah,
he's
because-
because he's like, at least that's honest, and you know where the value actually is,
Yeah.
and
But-
you know who actually controls value.
Because again, so like just look at this the wool industry example because it's so so it used to be like which Marx thinks is not as bad, like those little farmlands that people grew, and so there was a certain amount of wheat, barley, whatever they were producing that the rich would get in like in larger numbers, the poor would get like a little bit of it, they might be able to keep whatever they grow, and at some point the world market for wool just skyrockets. There's centers that are flourishing in Europe, not in Britain, that have this huge demand for wool because they're making shit out of it. And so what a lot of the landlords in Britain decide to do is they decide to abandon their farmlands and they just start rearing sheep.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that it's way less labor intensive compared to farming wheat or something. So there's huge swaths of people that get unemployed.
Yeah.
And so those like images that we have of medieval Europe, we're just looking at some guy on the street just like, just a loaf of bread, sire, and someone going like, you get the that
Kicking him in the
image.
ass. Kicking him in the ass.
It's so good that this feudal lord has an Australian accent.
Bob Catter. Fuck off.
That image actually just comes from a farmer that was laid off by the wool industry.
Yes.
Like it literally caused huge amounts of unemployment, like the sort of shit that they talk about with AI in the future. And they never got employed until the Industrial Revolution kicked in, when people started going to factories.
Yeah.
So that's the inhuman form of like how capital moves from like one place to another based on maximum return without caring for the casualties that it creates.
Right.
Yes, but he's saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the feudal lord really doesn't have a choice in that system either, because it's either like he just puts sheep on his land or he gets outcompeted and some other feudal lord will buy up his land and put sheep on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So he's playing the game. He's like the game
The free,
requires
is that
this.
the free market?
Yeah, that's
quote
the free
unquote?
market, right? You just follow where the capital is taking you. And sometimes it can go. That's what Deng Xiaoping was saying. Like, that was his example of how unbridled capitalism goes out of hand. So he said that we want state to control this capitalism. When it gets to that point where like some kind of capital movement will create havoc in the labor force or whatever, then we can like mitigate that through force. And so that's why like even their big companies still have huge state control over them.
Yes, and you have got to give it to them, and I know that our audience always argues with us, but I will say that they have done an incredible job of controlling capital.
Yeah,
What about the future? Surely at some point the dam becomes too big, and much like their poorly built Three Gorges dam, it'll come flooded into Shanghai. Surely.
Yangtze.
Man, there's definitely risks. You've got to be on your game. So if you look at their housing crisis, right, that's actually part of the reason why, like, state controlled, and again, not to say that it doesn't happen in the free market. We saw 2008 in the free market system in the US, right? So the fucked up things can happen in both systems. But the state-owned control system is like, sometimes your policy can just be wrong. And so like, if like the Chinese policy was, if you don't have people buying, it doesn't matter, just create the infrastructure. That infrastructure will give them the ability to buy, and then if the system will just keep rolling on. So you, like, if you look at their film industry, right? So their film industry was trash compared to, let's say, India or Nigeria or any other third world centers that had a huge film industry.
And now it's really well funded, but still.
Yes, but how they combated that was literally opposite of what India did. So India was like, their film industry was growing, and as the demand grew, they started increasing the number of screens that were going, so even villages started getting cinemas based on the popularity itself. China was like, our film industry is what can we do? Let's start building a load of cinemas everywhere. So every small town, just keep building cinemas. Governments can do that when they own like half of the infrastructure companies in the first place. So they kept building it. And to the point where like the cinemas were like, holy shit, what do we put up? We've got nothing. So first they got international to come up to play on those screens. And now even Chinese film industry has actually gotten to that point because there's a huge demand for it. People started making stuff. Initially it was, and to some extent it's still pretty bad, but now they're actually making some decent shit as well. So there's like, it's a strategy of how you do it. But the problem is sometimes this can really backfire. Like in China's cases, when they just keep building infrastructure, like, you know how we say the US has the military industrial complex and China has the infrastructure industrial complex. They kept building over and over again in places where there really wasn't any demand. And once the economy started going a little down, all of those projects just became dead induced and they'll collapse. So there's a way, like, there's this old example of China. You know, when during Mao's time, there were these massive famines, and so the Communist Party was like, how can we stop this famine? And one of the things that they kept saying was, every year 5 pounds of grain is consumed by the sparrows, the robin sparrows or whatever they're called, the birds. Every year, one bird consumes 5 pounds of grain, and that's wastage. So in this time, when we're going through a famine, we need to minimize wastage as much as possible. So they introduced a campaign to kill all the sparrows in China.
Shit.
They got successful, and you know what happened? Instead of losing 5 pounds, they lost their entire fields. Because the sparrow was a natural predator.
Weren't fertilizing it.
No. It was a natural predator of all
It was
these
a
insecticides and
pesticide.
pesticides and all this shit. So not only were they losing 5 pounds,
that
they
is
were losing
dumb.
5 tons, depending on like what.
That guy's not
Yeah.
that guy's not that bright.
So
Well,
this
then,
is
change
an
your policy to
example of
killing
like,
weevils.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and which we do. We use pesticide spray because we realize that policy is good, but it's also killing us.
Yeah,
return.
that's also not a great.
Anyways, the
fucking
point
policy.
is, like, sometimes these top-down strategies work really well because it gives you great control. But if you're wrong, you can royally screw up. Deng Xiaoping was right, but who's to say that every time you'll be right?
That's what I'm saying. It's just, but he must have had that calculation in his head that, look, as soon as we do this, we are just a guy at the rodeo on top of a buck, and one day we will get bucked off the saddle. He must know that.
He must. I don't know what his inner dialogue was, but I'm sure there was.
I really feel like it's just like once you create a system where you've just got a bunch of billionaires, eventually the billionaires are going to have more capital and power behind themselves, regardless of whether they're like quote unquote employees of the state or not.
Yeah, but that's why like Chinese billionaires just disappear. Like
Do they?
Jack Ma, he just
Yeah.
disappeared.
For now.
What are you saying? What
Eventually.
So you're saying eventually the capitalist thing will take over?
You're saying like
I'm saying, eventually the abstract idea of money just becomes its own force.
actually, dude,
naturally.
that's why Xi Jinping came in power in the first place, because they were saying that China is getting to that point where the billionaires are taking over, just like in the Western countries.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Xi actually purged an entire section of the Communist Party that followed Deng Xiaoping's opinion. So think of it this way. There was a civil war in the Communist Party between hardcore communists represented by Xi and like a group of people that sort of represented political economy views that maybe that South Korean dictator had or Taiwan has.
Yes.
Which is state control, but let the capital flow go in its own ways. You can guide it here and there, but don't with it too much. And they lost out in that power struggle. They were purged by Xi, and Xi took over on the campaign of like, China needs to go back to its Marxist-Leninist roots. And he doesn't necessarily say Deng Xiaoping was full of shit, but he says like he was good for his time, but now we're at a point where like we need to curtail this, otherwise there wouldn't be a difference between us and the US.
Yes.
And so he started resurrecting Marxist-Leninist statues all over again.
Right.
And started
okay.
taking full control. He believes what you're saying. And so he's trying to reform it in some sense.
Now, the question is he right? Or is it too late?
I don't know if he's right, because if you look at like how Chinese economy has fared in Xi's era compared to his predecessors, you'd probably say that, well, first of all, as soon as Xi came into power, their economy, which was their GDP growth rate was ridiculous. It was in double digits. It was like 11, 12%. We think it's a joke now, but China did that consistently for decades.
Yes.
And around when Xi came, that really dropped down to 6%.
Yes.
And now we're sitting at like 5 and 4%. So there's one argument saying like, okay,
But isn't that a sustainable level of growth anyway? You kind of wanted to be
That's
sitting
what-
around the 3 to 5%.
that's what he
range.
argues too. And I do agree with it to a certain extent. I just think that China was like a really export-driven economy. It still is, but like it was, those 12% was just coming from sending transformers to the US, right? And at
Right
some
on.
point they realized that we're vulnerable to outside countries that can either blockade us or they can like stop buying from us, or we might not be able to be as competitive. So we need to have a consumption-based economy like the US does. And for that, we need to like really drop down our growth rate to keep it sustainable. So that was his point of view. But having said that, like even if you look at China now, like things like these sort of things, like what they did with us, the tariffs and the trade war with us, is an example of like top-down strategy kind of going wrong, because they had to backtrack it in within 3 to 4 years, and it never really worked. There's not that much accountability in China, but if that was a Western government, they would get voted out just based on that. It's just, it didn't work. So like, it's a tough balance to maintain, which is why like, I honestly feel that a democratic country which has like both of those views, you just pick and choose which school of thought is right for the time being, the time that you're in at that
But
point.
I'm saying that like I don't think that once that like Pandora's box is open, it's like let's just put it this way: Xi Jinping will never have the same power that Mao had.
No.
That is never going to be concentrated, regardless of how much people say Xi Jinping's like a dictator and whatever. I'm sure that man still has to listen to captains of industry.
Yeah, I mean, the one example of him changing his view, which Mao never did, by the way, which shows you Xi is nowhere near Mao, is the COVID lockdown strategy. The protests got to a point where China had to switch.
Right.
And they went from being like extreme lockdown to then like, okay, open it up. And Xi was like, if she was asked often in different places, and we have his view on record, he was like, look, I was told by the experts saying like, if we don't do this, these many people will die. And I said, okay, then there's no debate over here. If that's the right strategy, then we lock down. We just deal with the repercussions. And he was like, people were so upset by it. And I was like, okay, if most people want this, then they can live with the debts that it's going to cause. So he clearly isn't that all-powerful Mao
No.
that just says sparrows are eating 5 pounds of grain, so like every sparrow is
Kill all
dead.
sparrows. Can't do it.
But he is trying to achieve that kind of control, though, irrespective.
I know he's trying to achieve it. I just like it's just something that I never thought of before, which is that these inanimate objects kind of just take on a life of their own, and it's actually the inanimate object that is driving these systems now. That actually is the force that is controlling the planet now. It's not people. People are kind of just within it, shifting in and out of roles, I guess.
But China is slightly different because like they've got this massive conundrum, right? So if you look at China's east coast, that's along the South China Sea, China is like legitimately 3 countries in one. If you look at just the east coast, the belt, that's like as rich as South Korea is, like any first world country really. And when you get to like, as you move away, you get to a second world and then you get to the third world. Like,
About Hong Kong,
Which is where the desert is.
yeah, which is where the desert is, right? So unlike the US, which has most of the US, yes, they're like centers that make more money than others, but generally speaking, it's a level playing field, you know? It's developed, it's like, it has all the natural resources that you kind of need for any society to work. So if a state isn't doing that well, it's kind of on them a little bit. But China doesn't have that. Like some of those eastern parts, like where the Xinjiang province is, where all this Uyghur stuff is also happening, it just doesn't have the resources to be a first world place. So it's being subsidized by the East Coast elite of China.
Yeah.
As a policy of the Chinese Communist Party. Because historically, China has always been in this situation. Their East Coast is always flourishing. But the problem was that invaders from the West, the Mongols, used to come and invade their territory, pillage, and go back.
Yes.
So they realized very, very early on, even when they were even when they made the wall, that if we can't control our West, then our East cannot flourish. So what we need to do is ensure that some of the money from the East is recycled into the West to ensure that they're not hostile. And that's a state conundrum that they face, right? But the business elite of China would love for them to be like, just cut them off.
Yeah.
Why are you fighting over Tibet? They're like, it's a barren land that makes no money. Who cares? We'll make way more money over here. Plus, this is where everyone lives anyways. So but China's like, that's when you are going to disappear. You can't say that.
Right.
It's our choice as what we do with your money, in a way. And so they have to keep that control, whereas like other countries might not have to. So it's a weird, complicated net. And that's why someone like Xi comes in to say like, enough of this party. We'll tell you what happens with this money now.
You know what else is like an incredible point about China that I recently heard, which is when you're talking about Apple, for instance, and people are always saying, oh, well, Apple screwed over America and moved overseas. I actually heard Apple's perspective from it, and I was like, damn, that really shows what happens when you do have a government that's actually in control and can manipulate capital and move it to where it wants to go. He was saying, I tried to bring back Apple to the United States, but to make computers, surprise, surprise, you have to have an extremely educated workforce. We're not even talking about money at this point. We're just talking about people that have the intelligence and expertise to operate these extremely complicated machines. And he was saying, when we went to Texas, it was like, we could find 2 of those guys. We went to China, there was literally stadiums. You could cram stadiums with these eggheads that knew how to do it. Whoa. So you can't do these things in the West.
Yeah.
Because we do not have an education system that is remotely competitive with it.
Yeah, people of that kind of niche skill in those kind of quantities that produce those devices for the entire world, really.
There's also just more Chinese people too, right? So statistically, there'll be more of them.
No,
Yeah, but
that's
they're-
not, because like India, there's a lot of Indians, but that's
there's
got
not?
nothing to do with it. And also America, what do you mean? There's like 300 million people there. They could cram stadiums filled with IT eggheads if they wanted
that's
to.
true.
They just
Well,
don't
no, that's
have-
the whole thing. They can't. That's exactly the point. They can't. And when you hear things like President Joe Biden begging automotive companies that they've repeatedly bailed out to be like, look, can you just reduce your fuel usage on your fossil fuel cars a bit, and then the guy, like, yeah, maybe, and then hang up on the president of the United States, and he has to go and brag on Jimmy Fallon, being like, "Look, man, I'm doing everything I can, Jack." It really shows you can't do anything in a Western country. You have no power at all, none.
Yeah, which is why they're also like, when people say like, Apple's shipped all of our jobs to China. Even people that are arguing that, they're not asking to bring those jobs back. They're just asking to move it to India for geopolitical reasons.
Yes.
And India's pitching itself. They might be able to. They're pitching themselves as like, we're the next China. We're friendly to you guys, and we also have a bunch of IT nerds.
Yeah, but you actually aren't, are you? You do not have the infrastructure and the brains for it. China has all of that
At
stuff.
this point, you're right,
Like,
yes.
No one has a choice.
Yeah.
You have to deal with it.
it
is because of that state-controlled society.
No, it's just that some
they value
societies
education
are
more?
way more...
They just value education.
Yeah, they're just way more hardworking.
Yeah.
Like Koreans, Chinese, Taiwanese...
Japanese too?
Japanese, like, their work ethic is unparalleled. Bro, I'm part Indian if you want to think of it. I know their work ethic. We do not compare to the Chinese. The Chinese are something else. They work like 12, 13 hours a day, and they don't even think that was a big day for them.
No.
Some Indians can do that, but like not at the same level. And so it's a combination. There's a reason why everyone moved their to China. Why not anywhere else? It went to China because it made the most economic sense to them, and not just because of cheap labor. It was the whole combination of stuff. In fact, cheap labor, particularly...
It's not even the cheapest labor.
Yeah.
Like, you could easily move it to Indonesia or the Philippines.
Exactly. There's cheaper labor. Vietnam.
Sri Lanka.
There's cheaper labor over there. Sri Lanka. There's so many places where there's cheaper labor. I don't even think if cheap labor is the biggest priority for these people.
Honestly, I believe Apple when they say that. I always thought that it was just because of cheap labor, and then as soon as they said that, it was, man, that's a no-brainer. You can't operate anywhere else.
Yeah.
Fuck. Jesus.
There's
Red
a reason
pill
why they're the
podcast.
biggest economy in the world.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that eventually, at one point, we are kind of screwed if capital wins over in China globally. If it does become one of those countries like the United States, we're not going to have stadiums filled with IT nerds anymore.
Right.
We're just going to have a bunch of TikTokers. And that's the engine of the planet.
Not TikTokers.
Dude, even TikTok.
It does happen. You're right.
Like, TikTok is a genius app invented by the Chinese. Look at that. It's put the entire Western world
we
into
can make
a
it
trance.
100 times more addictive.
More addictive, yeah.
Easily.
More.
Yeah, way more fun.
Shit. I mean, you've convinced me. I bow down to our new short or overlord.
Dude, we found out. You know what's funny? You know when
Shorter.
you know what's funny? We found out there's recently been some leaks of internal Chinese thinking on this whole TikTok stuff. Like, you know how the Western countries are banning TikTok for privacy reasons and stuff? Apparently they're laughing at that. Do you know why they're laughing? And it'll make complete sense to you as soon as I tell you. Like, we don't need TikTok for your data, bro. How secure do you think the internet is? We can switch off Canadian electricity today.
Really?
And that's not because of TikTok. It's
China
because
can.
you have
What?
Because you have no idea how unsafe the internet is.
Shit.
And you don't need TikTok for it. You can just steal data.
I just had this image of like Xi Jinping doing a presentation. It's like, Deng Xiaobo, Deng Xiaobo, no. And then like the curtain comes down. There's just a giant logo of MSN. Everyone's like, deling.
Dude, even the AI tech is crazy. They've been working at it for a long time now. Elon Musk was talking about how...
Really?
Yeah, back in the day, I was like, how you don't realize the sort of that Chinese are working on in
Really?
terms of AI. So, like, in the next gen, they're going to be competitive. In fact, that's what the entire war is about.
It is. You have to admit, it is pretty remarkable that the center of the most amount of labor accessible in the world is also that educated and focused. We are
Scary.
extremely lucky that strange set of circumstances equated in that. Because now that I'm thinking of it, I really don't think that the rest of the world would be anywhere near as advanced as it is without it. Surely.
Yeah, but like they've got one issue that the America never did.
What?
They're starved of certain raw natural resources. They depend on other countries to do it. So if America
Yeah.
decided today to just cut off from everyone else, they can manage it.
Yes.
They've got everything in house
Yeah.
for their own 300
Right.
million population.
Yeah.
Even Australia, we'd lack some skills, but we'd be fine.
Yeah.
China can't do that. There's not enough energy in China. Even with like all the solar power and all their technological advances in renewables, they're still depending on Australia to, for example, provide them with renewable energy in the future.
Mm-hmm.
They want Australia to provide them with lithium. They want Australia to provide them with bauxite, cobalt, all of the that you need for this transition. They have some. Because China's a huge place. They have some, but not nearly to the same level that they're asking for. And they've got one component of it, which is the skills to be able to develop it, but they don't have the basics of it. And that's why they're always
That's the story of Asia.
That's the story of Asia.
Yeah.
And so they can never be truly, truly independent in that sense, which is why I always say that China can be curtailed in that sense. Their survival depends on us, our survival. So we don't necessarily have to go into this apocalyptic nuclear war with them because they understand that they need the rest of the world too. And like I was saying before, their trade volume is $900 billion, almost $1 trillion more than the US now. They really want this trade to flourish because if there's a breakdown in this, they're screwed themselves. But apparently we still need to buy submarines to nuke them because, they're about to take over Taiwan any moment now. And until that happens, we need to make sure that we've burnt every bridge for that future eventuality when they take over Taiwan. Like, how about this? How about like if they do invade Taiwan, like the Ukraine, then we decide if we want to stop giving them iron ore. How about you stop asking us to make those statements now before they've even done it?
Yeah, before they've done anything.
You just say it. Say that you'll stop giving them iron ore, and then all the politicians are like, yes, we're going to stop giving them iron ore. Say, just shut the fuck up. We'll deal with it if it happens. Let's not try to antagonize them because as soon as you say that, they're like, "Oh, Australia's they're gonna fall into the same American paradigm of choke holding us and stuff."
Dude, I'm flying into Taiwan when I go to Europe at the end of the year. How much would it be my luck that on the day I land in Taiwan, they're like, "Shut it down, we're nuking it." I'm like, "No, not today." That would suck so hard.
It would be fun. Mislav called me and he said, "Hey, Ali, I'm getting a $1,000 cheaper ticket to Taiwan, but I'm afraid that something's going to go down. Should I just pay an extra $1,000?" And I was like, "You're dumb."
When did you turn into a prepper? What is this shit?
Recently, that's when 30s. That's when, dude. When I started just being like, tin. You can't afford the craft brand of tin beans. I'll gotta get home brand. I get a 30 cents inflation. Yeah.
Man, that's so weird. I think the exact opposite as a 30-year-old. If I would pay for the cheaper ticket now just to go to Taiwan because I'd be like, all right, I'm going to be right in the red zone.
Yeah, but that's the difference between us, dude. They'll hand me an AK and I won't be able to get the child lock off.
Yeah. But I do, honestly, out of all the deaths, evaporating like one of those old animes about Hiroshima going,
You down for that?
that one seems like the best way you could possibly go. Just getting vaporized.
It'd be cool, but just let me have some Aperol spritzers before I go.
Hey, do you want to do a misadventure?
I gotta.
Yeah.
I gotta.
Wait, that's the
Can I piss?
misadventure.
I gotta piss.
All right, while Jordan's while Mislav is in the bathroom, there's some more news. Melbourne has officially taken over Sydney as the most populous city in the country.
I knew this day was coming. I just didn't think it had happened so soon.
Is this the end of Sydney as the primary city for Australia?
I hope so. Sick of paying so much rent.
Dude, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, this is not
You
a
can
bad
have it.
thing, bro. Like today, I was during
You can
rush
have
hour.
2 crowns, Melbourne. One for Crown Casino. One is the most populous city in Australia. There you go.
Day, I was
Much like my hairline, you're double crowned.
I had to drive to the studio at 8 in the morning, which is peak rush hour through the main highway to get to the city. And I was driving. I came here maybe 40 minutes in which is nothing. And I was wondering what the hell is going on here. And I was like, maybe it's not a bad thing that Melbourne is the biggest city now. Rush hour isn't that bad in Sydney anymore.
I don't think that happened the day that Melbourne. I think you just got lucky.
No, I'm just saying. Like,
What do you say?
I'm saying if Melbourne becoming the biggest city means that our traffic isn't
I don't know if that
bearable,
actually, now
then
that I
that's
think
a
about
good
it, it's
thing.
probably not the way. It's just Sydney will continue to grow. It's not like all of a sudden, all right, that's it. All of a sudden, you're Condobolin now.
No, but
no one wants to live near the harbour for some reason.
But you know, Sydney does have
There you go. Your neighbours with Malcolm Turnbull, are they?
Sydney does have a negative growth rate now.
Really?
Yeah.
Finally.
God.
Finally.
Actually,
Stop
this
coming.
is all great. You sucked in Melbourne.
Yeah.
There's a
Now
lot
you know
of
what it's like.
there's a lot of people in Sydney that are moving to Brisbane and Melbourne.
Yeah, fair enough too. I think that they've
Melbourne's
honestly
sick.
made the right move.
My
Melbourne's-
family moved to Brisbane.
Yeah.
That's one
Yeah.
example.
There you go.
It's
That's proof.
Cost of living. No, but like this is official data. More people. Sydney has a negative growth rate.
Finally.
and, Brisbane and Melbourne both have positive.
Yeah.
Good. It's time to.
I feel like Brisbane isn't pulling its weight. I feel like there's plenty of room over there.
Yeah.
Every time this Stig complains to me about his rental prices, I think, nah, you need a couple more million people.
Yeah, I know.
That's what you need.
You don't know what a rental crisis is.
You don't know what a housing crisis is. Like, it's so bad when you go to like Brisbane and Melbourne, where people are like, "Did you realize this house used to be $500,000 and now it's $700,000 in a matter of 2 years?" And I'm like, bro, you can't find a property under $1 million in Sydney
Yeah, at a decimal
anywhere.
point. At a
I know, isn't
1.7.
it just insane that there's all these people in Melbourne being like, oh my God, the price is so bad. Hey, how is a local bartender supposed to live in Fitzroy these days? I mean, I can live in the CBD, and let's be honest, that'd be more convenient, both for my lifestyle and work.
Yeah,
I like living in Fitzroy. It's like, dude, I saw apartments for sale right smack bang in the middle of the CBD of Melbourne. $500,000.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And
That's
because
crazy.
you've had a Labor government in there, it's not a melting cardboard box. It's
Yeah.
an actual apartment.
Yeah, they built
Yeah.
it properly. We got
True.
locked. We got locked in the fire escape, and I was like, "This is nice."
And you know what else was amazing? Walking up the fire exit in Melbourne and not feeling this rickety feeling of like, okay, they've made this flight out of pasta. I think they could have gotten something.
Painted
Oh my
a dirt
God,
here.
they didn't even use super glue.
Pretty clever.
Yeah, you guys have no idea how shitty some of the building qualities in Sydney City are.
It's pathetic.
Our last apartment where we used to live, like where the studio was,
the floor bowed in.
you could tell as soon as you walked in, it was a new development. It was brand new, and you could tell that this will last maximum a decade.
Maximum.
And you know what else? We were there for 2 years, and by the end of 2 years,
It was
my dad
already
used to
crumbling.
always say these will one day be turned into housing commission apartments. And then I was walking past. This was an apartment built under the last Labor government that was here. It feels like
It's
an
much
actual
better.
house.
It does.
Definitely.
It's well built. Around it is a bunch of parks. That
Yeah.
was definitely green zone. That was part of the development process there. So when I walk out here, I have the sound of birds chirping and a nice scent of flowers everywhere I go. And then I walk past my old apartment and there was just hot garbage coming straight out of Do you remember that? Yeah. Remember every time we used to have to drive up the driveway to the old apartment and there'd just be this row of trash. Yeah. It was just like, one of these children in the Philippines that lives in a trash heap. What the hell is this?
And this is
these
supposed to
apartments
be-
cost $1.5 million.
Yeah, this is supposed to be where the elite is supposed to live.
I know.
And like, how
call
are you
this
living
living?
here?
So far.
So far.
24-hour gym is a few blocks away.
And it's the houses are 1.5. Yeah, the apartments are 1.5 million, 1.3 million.
And people in Melbourne are complaining about well-built apartments that are $500,000.
No, I mean, look, I don't want to like shit talk. Everything has gone up. It's just like ours was already a pretty high base.
It went up from 200,000 to 500,000. You don't know how good that is.
That's not
Yeah, it's
Think about it like this: we could buy 3 good apartments for the price of a trash heap.
Yeah.
In Sydney.
Yeah.
it's the housing dream is over in Sydney. But to be fair, on average, people living in Sydney earn a higher wage. So I guess it
by how
cancels
much?
out.
What, like $50 a week more?
No, actually, someone told me this. One of my cousins who lives in Brisbane told me that I think 80%. So he grew up in Sydney, near East Gardens, and he now lives in Brisbane. And he's saying this is a good marker to judge it. You'll earn about 80% of what you're earning in Sydney when you move to Brisbane.
Right.
Oh,
Whatever you do.
And houses cost about a quarter.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, no,
they don't
really
necessarily.
miss that fifth of your money, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And on top of that, I really don't think that a corporate lawyer earns that much less in Brisbane than Sydney.
They do.
Could be wrong.
They earn less. They do earn less. Not that
Much
much,
less?
but they do. Just look at because I know. You look at the postings. They definitely. So a lawyer that was earning $130,000 over here, which by the way is not a crazy amount, but it is kind of a crazy amount in Brisbane. I'm talking about a lawyer that's been working in the field for maybe 3-4 years. In Sydney, you'd go up to 130,000. Same person in Brisbane, probably 80,000. In Melbourne, maybe 90, 100,000.
I don't know how much they're making in Perth. I think that they've just gamed the system there. I bet you a corporate lawyer over there is earning 300 grand.
It depends what sector. If you're in the
Probably.
mining industry, you're earning a lot
if
of
you're in
money.
mining, yeah.
I like how Perth seems to have this old school medieval patronage system where it's kind of just like, submit to Gina Reinhardt and accept the crowns.
Yeah.
You know, like it really seems like if you sell your soul in Perth, you'll at least get a good price.
For sure.
Hell yeah.
Who wants to see various Danos Direct products?
Hell yeah.
Dude, this like, think of it from this. Oh, by the way, okay, I found out some more details about this. But do you know one of the most selling cars? Sorry, not the one of the most. The most selling car in Australia is a Land Cruiser.
Polestar. Oh, okay.
Did you know that?
No.
Do you know how much that car costs?
No.
$150,000, $170,000.
Christ.
Most selling car in Australia.
Wow.
God, I would have sworn it was the Tesla. There's so many of them.
Prado.
It's not the Tesla.
There are a lot of them.
Get out of Zetland.
There are a lot of
Get out of
there are a
Zetland,
lot
yeah,
of
you're
Teslas.
right.
Get out of Zetland.
Yes. Yeah.
But those $160,000, $170,000 cars, they're all. I looked it up. I was like, who the f are buying these cars? They're mostly being sold in Western Australia and Queensland. They're mostly being sold by people that are affiliated with the mining industry. And I heard about this. Someone told me recently. Someone who works in a mining company. There's a thing called no wait lease for cars. So you get a brand new 0-meter car. You pay it before tax, right? So it goes from the tax money. You use it for 3-4 years. You hand it back. They give you a $10,000 check, and you get the latest new car.
What?
You have to set aside a certain amount of money every month. Maybe it's $1,000 a month that you
It's
pay.
an old scheme. This is basically just how Alan Bond.
Yeah, but
became
like
a
that's
billionaire.
how they're buying these Land Cruisers.
Yeah. And of course, people that work in the mining industry don't really care about fuel efficiency.
No,
Nope.
absolutely not.
You know what? Honestly, you know how people are always saying ban cruise ships, ban Land Cruisers.
Yeah, ban Land Cruiser. At
No
least
one
give me
needs
one.
That.
But come on, Prados are pretty fun. I had one for a while.
Dude,
I don't
everyone
know
thinks
what
they're
that is.
fun.
A Prado.
But I think this is the jealousy thing that you were talking
It's
about.
a four-wheel drive. It makes you feel like a big man.
Last part of the working class are just jealous. Maybe we are. We're like ban Land Cruisers because we don't have one.
I mean, they're
No,
not.
I'm not even saying it. It's just like, oh, yeah, I think you're better than me with your fancy heated steering wheel. It's nothing to do with that. It's just like, I really hate how those massive wastes of resources just go out of the gas station. It's just like, you are out of gas. Please U-turn back into BP.
Ban them in the city. You don't need them in the city. You just don't.
No,
You don't
absolutely
need to
not.
haul a dead pig in like Redfern or Bondi, you know?
That's true. Having said that, it's pretty cool seeing MILFs get out of one of those.
Yeah,
Dude, it's always rad seeing MILFs get out of SUVs.
Yeah.
Range
They've earned it.
Rovers.
All right. Exclusively, you have to get an 8 or above on rateme.com to qualify for a Land Cruiser.
Dude, that's why they get it. They marry someone that's loaded and then they get out that Land Cruiser and Range
Reap
Rover.
the rewards.
All right, Miss, we're running out of time, so let's do your misadventures.
Oh,
and
you want to do that?
yeah.
This one was like a long time coming. By the way, I put this in my bag, right? And then I put this in my bag and with a vape.
Yeah.
I put this in my bag, and the Harry Styles feather was just connected to it.
That's perfect.
I don't know where it came from.
Wow, what a miracle.
Yeah, so I'll find where where is
Oh, you keep that in forever.
it? Yeah. I just didn't touch
It's
it.
becoming a scrapbook filled with precious memories.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the last misadventure?
Well, I'll show you.
Harry
Don't
Styles.
say it. I'll show you. Let me. Is the camera on me? Let me reveal it by displaying the various memorabilia I got. Is that fair? I don't know if you can see this.
Oh my God, what is that?
Can you put
Okay,
that on?
give it to Jordan.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I'll give you all of it. See if it starts to help.
Says
Magazine called Freedom.
Put it in the mic.
This is a magazine called Freedom.
I'll give you all of it.
And then we have another magazine called Impact, which for some reason seems to be very concerned with kids being drugged up in Italy. It's not local, let's give it that way. The Way to Happiness, a common sense guide for better living. I'll be reading that. And we have The Bridge.
There's a lot, dude. There's a lot of shit.
With, I think, the chick from the Amy ad on the front.
There's so much. Look, I got DVDs. Look.
why? What is this?
Keep going. Just keep reading it.
This one seems to be a live-action version of Akira.
Show him.
It's a documentary called Making a Killing, the untold story of psychotropic drugging. I can't even remember why you have these things.
Keep looking. I'll
Way
leave
to
it for the
Happiness
end.
now on DVD. Well, that saves a lot of time.
This one might.
If I had
this
a
one,
DVD player,
This one
anymore.
might say it. This one might give it away.
Ooh, you've got a DVD on the life of L. Ron Hubbard.
Whoa, what was this misadventure?
This one will help even more.
Yeah, this one's just yeah. Okay,
There's so
all right.
much
He went to Scientology church.
Did you go to the Scientology church?
yes, I did.
Are like randos
My
allowed?
God, they give you a lot of information.
Dude, there's so.
Man,
look at this.
you went
there's
to
more.
so many imams and they gave you what, that one crap paper.
Yeah, look at this. The bridge. Look, that's where it is. Go clear, Sydney.
I wonder why Scientology
What the
so
hell?
anti-drugs.
Sydney.
Why do
Wait,
they care so
anyone
much
can
about
walk
that?
in and
Anyone can walk in.
they entertain. I thought it was just for rich people.
Nah, man. They let me come
But they
in
ask
and
you what your pay is, and if it's like anywhere below $200,000, they tell you to.
Not at the entry level. Look at this. The truth about cocaine.
It's good for you.
Yeah, let me guess. It's bad. I learned that they really don't like drugs. And look, there's Jung. Jung's in here. Look at this. See Jung?
Yeah.
What the?
I wanna read about like. So what was your misadventure like?
Jordan's got. Actually, this is the most important thing. These are my test results. I did the test.
No way.
It took me like an hour and a half.
You were in the Scientology building.
Are you ready to see the results, both of you? I just want to
Hang
show.
on, let's read your adventures, and then at
okay.
the end,
And
we'll
actually-
see how clear you are.
Yeah, and while we're doing this too, I'll send Ali some photos that I took there. Because can I send them to you to put up on the screen?
Do you know how to do that, Ale?
I can do it.
I just
All
think
right,
it's
do
worth
do
it.
do it.
I'll send you like two. This is because remember, this is going to the up late crowd. There's a lot
No,
more.
it's not. It's going to everyone.
No, I mean like the extra footage. My extra.
Oh,
remember, I get
you don't
the
want to
extra
show
stuff?
it over here now?
I'll show you one. I'll show you one little photo.
Email it to me.
Yeah, I'll email it to you, and then I'll because then it'll be tantalizing for the. It was so far back now. I gotta find it.
I think we have our title for this week's podcast. We visited the Church of Scientology.
Yeah, I think that if that doesn't get clicks,
You reckon?
Yeah.
I don't.
Or even better, going clear.
Yeah, going clear. Going clear is gonna do it. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
It was a terrible idea on my end to send Mislav to the Church of Scientology because I bet you he signed up to it.
I won't tell you in advance, but I might have some commitments, other worldly commitments.
All
that I
right,
have to-
read some of the adventures.
Can I just
All
send
right.
this to your
Well,
phone?
originally I remember
No, just
I
send it
said
to me email.
you should
Email.
go visit the Har Krishna Center, the Happy Science Center, and the Church of Scientology.
Yeah.
And then I remember Mislav calling back and saying, I tried to do that, but I couldn't leave the Church of Scientology.
Yeah, literally, dude. Gmail. Here we go. It was fucked. I mean, it was. Let me just tell you.
I cannot wait to see what happens inside because I
Yeah,
think
me too.
everybody out there is
Top one?
curious about what goes on.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that's for sure.
All right, so took magnesium and Finurgan last night. Oh, that was before you entered the Church of Scientology.
Oh, geez, I forgot it. I haven't read. I don't remember this, dude.
Wow, you are an avid student.
How
woke
good's
up
that?
at 1 p.m. Unfortunately, the original MisAdventure has gone out the window. That's right. Originally, I wanted him to go to Jamboree Recreation Park where he
Yes.
controls the action. But
Yeah,
he went
which
to
we can still
somewhere where
do.
The action is controlled for him.
We can still. I'll send you the rest of this on your phone so you can upload it. But anyway, yeah. Sorry. Go on.
Onwards to the city to try and move up the ranks of Tom Cruise-led Scientology. He thinks Tom Cruise is the head. Found it. The reading is an hour long. There's no Hindu temples in the city. Didn't know that. No, I'm not looking for Hindu temples. I'm looking for Hare Krishna. And it's not a temple. It'd be a building.
Oh well.
And the only happy science is in Artarmon. Didn't know that. I thought they'd have one in the city for sure.
Nah.
Looks like this is it for today. Wish me luck.
I'll have to
Chapter
airdrop
2.
you.
Sat down and did the test. 200 questions.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say $200. I was like, here we go.
God, I've never heard of someone being so interested in someone else.
It was an exam. It was like the HSC.
Jeez, is they trying to test if you're a replicant?
It was so intense.
Coloured in the circle. Took an hour. They took my results. Then I got a reading and analysis of my results with a dude, 70-something, called Wayne. He said, I'm very depressed. Listen to this.
Hey, look at this photo.
Oh, Miss, you really.
No,
Okay.
I'll put it. I'll put it. In the photo
Sorry.
Look, Miss, you can't. We're in the middle of the
All
plot
right,
here,
sorry,
but this is
sorry.
a hilarious.
Okay,
photo.
go.
That the
go.
display that you have on your face.
Yeah, how
All
does
right,
that know
go.
your profile
In fact,
picture?
do it right now. Do it right now.
Okay.
Make it the next Forest Hall album cover.
Okay, go on.
Make it the front cover. You have to. You have to.
Okay, go on.
Okay, this is the results that he got. You ready for this? This is what the guy said to the Scientology about Mislav. He said, "You're a very depressed, angry young man."
He did. He was to me. This guy was an absolute and there was a dude next to me that went and he was like, that was sick. I had the best. I'm like, why did I get the dick? He was like, it was like a therapy session for me. They weren't pushing it at all. I'm like, who the did you see? Keep going. It was
that's okay. That's very good. With no goals, that talks a lot of bull to
This is what he said. He goes like this. He went like this to me. So he got my results, which I'll show you here. These are my results. I'll show you after. It's insane. And this is what he did this quote. He goes like this. He goes, you, and I go, yeah. He goes, you, a lot of this, a lot of this. I'm just like, wow, thanks, man. All right, it's fucked. It was.
And this is either because of past trauma that I know about or don't. He kept saying it happened in childhood or my mind is being possessed by a spirit. Or I didn't know they were into the namby-pamby Tree of Life stuff.
Yeah, possessed by a spirit possibly.
Or another person that won't leave me be. He then made me watch an intro movie. He said, I do lots of this. And said I do a lot of talking bull. The depression reading was as low as possible. Look, he's not wrong.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Scientology has something to it.
Look at all this.
John Travolta was
No
right.
wonder they usually don't give out those many pamphlets. And I thought they were just like, look, this is usually retailed at $1,000, but you need it.
Pretty much, dude.
In the beginning, I believed it had an open mind, but I called him on his BS and said, no, I'm empathetic and I had a great childhood. He just reverted to the evil spirit must be possessing you.
Yeah, because I said, he was like, bad childhood, right? I was like, no, I had a great childhood. It was like, something bad happened. I'm like, dude, literally nothing bad happened in my childhood. Not one bad thing. And then he's just like, then you're possessed by a spirit. I'm like, well, that's convenient. Great.
Well, you know, like, what are the other explanations?
I don't know.
Basically, was a very, very unprofessional psychologist. I don't know if he is a psychologist.
But that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's how they weed out the poor folks.
What do you mean?
If you look like you're not going to be the next Tom
Cashing up,
Cruise,
Yeah.
they're like, you suck.
No, I think they probably are doing a little psychology reading, and they're trying to read as to whether we should burrow into this guy's self-esteem or we should
Yes.
talk them up.
Mm.
Either way of joining us. you
Yeah.
know? But little did he know that he is Homer Simpson, and much like when Homer Simpson joined that cult, the only way that you could get him in is just by being like, no, Tom Cruise.
That would have worked. That would have worked.
Said there's various courses that could help me. First one is for $55. See, this is a pretty good buy-in. Start low. Dude basically told me I have no goals and thought badly of people. The dude basically looked like a regenerative farming guy me and Jordan met.
Yeah.
He must have led a double life. Honestly, that guy. I was into it a bit, but he was so off on so many levels. See, this is the whole thing. So maybe if you tried the tactic of, wow, Mislav, you're so hardworking, you're empathetic, and
That
you're
would've
such a
worked.
good person all around. And you're doing amazing, but Scientology could help you go further.
Then I'd be in.
Wow, really?
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah. This guy picked the wrong.
You picked the wrong formula.
Yeah.
Also said ADHD was bull. Well, I mean, look, he's a living example, but it's not. And the drugs are. I didn't know that this was a thing about that. Really?
Yeah.
They're
I'm
really
so
big on
into
like
drugs.
anti
drugs. They said they poison you. He was like, don't take any of that little poison.
Yeah, it wasn't like the entire interview of Tom Cruise trying to tell schizophrenics to stop taking drugs.
Really?
Yeah, he was like,
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck. I think a big part of it was.
but then he came out with Top Gun Maverick and he's back on top.
Hell yeah.
All the reactive mind. When I said I had a good childhood, he said it could have been while I was in the womb that I had the trauma. I could have been bumped.
He said,
Well, you don't know.
He did say that. He said I could have been bummed in the womb. What? I don't know. I tried to.
You know what? That actually is a very old school common insult of like, well, you dropped on the head count.
Yeah,
It's actually saying that. Now, sign up to this $55 course. I was open-minded. Miss, don't go into Scientology with an open mind. But overall, it was a very negative experience.
It's bringing back trauma. It was bad. It was bad. It was so bad.
That seems to take some aspects of psychology and vaguely apply them, inject a ton of pseudoscience and prey on vulnerable people, dramatically over-dramatizing the scale of things like depression, happiness, etc. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not literally the most depressed person on earth. Off, Wayne.
That's what he said. Dude, he kept going, dude, I'll show you. Whenever you guys want to see the chart, I'll show you the chart. But he's like, see down here? And it was like, the thing is like, you're way down here.
Elements of truth exaggerated to prey on vulnerable people, hilarious American-style content and building. What do you mean hilarious American-style content? What does that mean?
It's just very like, enter the, the inclusion zone. There's no judging here. Watch this small infomercial. Is that it?
Yeah, that was it.
Oh, that's it. Watch this small infomercial, and then we will cleanse you. Like, it's very American, this uniform. It's all very clean. Like, even the bathroom, I was like, I gotta pee. And I was just like, this bathroom's freaking me out.
Really?
Yeah, it's just really sterile, and like they had very fancy soap for your hands. Like, it's like, ooh, it smells nice. Just like weird. Anyway, do you want to see the most fucked up chart you're about to see in your life?
Yep.
Who should I show first? I guess you just
Show
open
it to
it. Just
Jordan.
open it and show the crowd.
All right. Here we go.
No,
Need to have drawn.
he drew on the back
on there.
as well. But open that.
Well, how am I supposed to make any sense of this?
It is in.
X equals reactive mind, bad path.
Show Ali.
This is like physics. What is this?
Show me.
Like, dude. Okay, I'll explain it to you.
Wait,
I'll explain it to you if you want. Basically, okay, so.
Whoa.
But he drew so much on it. And I was just like, do you get paid to work here? And it's like, no, I'm a volunteer. I'm like, what do you do for a job? And he's like, I'm an accountant. I'm like, how long have you been volunteering for a Scientology? 45 years. Yeah.
So he was one of the OGs.
OG, he was old. And he did not like me. But like, okay, so basically,
Are you sure he didn't like you?
I'll just explain really to you guys, and I'll show the crowd. So,
Ali.
so this thing here, right? Jeez, he drew so much. So this thing here is the graph of like, that's my graph, right? My points. You're not going to be able to see, but whatever. It's just a graph, and basically like you're supposed to be above these two areas. You're supposed to be above these, like, see these in the middle there? He's like, if you're above here, you're all good. So my line should have gone up like here. That's how it should have been. But this is my line. The cloud signifies the worst you can be, and that's depression. And then nervous is the lowest. And then he's like, uncertainty is pretty bad. He said that inactive mind is pretty good. Inhibited is pretty good, whatever that means, and everything else is just f***ed. And then
What is everything else?
well, I'll show it to you, but basically that line is
That's
me.
all depression.
That line is me, and then I mean it's like it is like a physics thing. He said that's me, and I push people out. See that little circle? It's like you make a wall around you, and you push people out. You push them out, and
this was from the 200 questions?
yeah. And then he drew a
What
thing.
were the questions? Give us some examples.
Oh man, I took a photo. I took a photo of it. Hold on, I'll show
Wait,
you.
do you want me to
remember
put that?
any of them?
Put the
photo
ones up I showed you. Yeah, I took photo. Oh no, it's just a multiple choice.
Oh, actually, now that I'm looking at it,
look.
all right, it's just that his handwriting's terrible.
Wait, check it out. Look, it's like just multiple choice vibes. But I can't.
Yeah. But you can't remember.
No,
any
I
of them.
can't remember. It
What's
was
that? What's this photo we're looking at, Miss?
Jordan. Look at that. Look at that photo. That is a photo I got someone to take of me watching the infomercial.
And what's and what's this shit? What is this?
This is a video of me watching the infomercial.
See,
Who
you
got-
cannot brainwash this man.
Who took that? Who made
How
that
can
video?
you?
There were some other
like,
people
while
there
you're
that were,
saying,
like,
"Hey
in
man,
there
can
too."
you film me for my TikTok?" How can you say that ADHD doesn't exist?
That looks so. I think there's another photo. I sent you one more.
No, that's
Look at that photo. Look at that. They made me watch it. There's another one. There's another
well,
one. But
yeah, we've got some new photo editions for him.
But basically, look, the Oxford, yeah. So basically, the questions were, dude, there was a weird variety of questions. Like there was like, if there was a dog with its heel broken on the side of the road, would you walk up to it and help it? If there was an old man that wanted to cross the road, would you help him?
Wait, you said no to that?
Look at this photo.
Yeah, that's my favorite
That's a
photo of all
classic.
time.
That
That's
should
be your
Facebook
profile picture.
right there.
Yeah. So
or at least on your dating app.
So basically, yeah, you're right. So basically, so the photos were like very psychological based. Like, do you feel angry? How often do you feel angry? But there was some really weird ones, like really weird ones, like, would you take up arms to support your country? Like that. And then there was ones that are sort of
That's
like,
not that weird. What did you say?
I can't remember. I answered them as honestly as possible. But it was just saying, it was just there was some weird ones. There was some very strange ones. Like, would you like to go to Zimbabwe? There was one like that. Like, I don't know. Yeah. There was some weird ones.
Well, you got to stretch it out if you're asking 200.
Yeah, it was an
questions.
I
hour-long
wonder
exam.
what's the right answer for it. Do you want to go to
You
Zimbabwe?
wanna go to
Yes.
Zimbabwe.
Are you
Yeah, but I
crazy?
think that's all just about like, are you up for open experience?
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of stuff. You can see exactly what they're asking.
Wait,
when
that-
they're asking
that
it, which is
dog
very-
one-
Huh?
What did you say to that? Did you
I was
say you
being-
weren't going to go? And
No,
help
I
the
said I'd
dog?
help it. I was being honest. I think that the fact that they were just like, do you sometimes feel like anxious? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, wow, you're the worst person on earth. Like, I don't know. And the literature, there was books. And dude, he literally went like this at one point. He goes, are you familiar with this? And it was like Dianetics. And it was like this thick book. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard about it. Is that the book he's written? It's like, that's the first book he's written. And I was just like, dude, you're holding like a copy of Dune to me. I've read Dune. It's a science fiction book. How am I supposed to take you seriously? It's a thick science fiction book with the volcano on the front going, it's like, come on. And I really had an open mind. I'm like, it didn't help that it was being a to me, to be honest. I'm just like, you're a dick. Like, give me some credit here, you know? He's like, he was like, you're the worst person
showed
I've
up.
ever met.
He surely didn't.
He didn't say that, but he basically did. He was just like, a lot of this, bad attitude, depressed, angry. You got bumped in the womb. I'm like, hey, what the fuck are you talking about? I know people that's lives are completely. What would they get? What would their fucking result be?
I would love to know.
Imagine if they killed it.
God.
Anyway, so basically, I don't know what you can make of that. Did you show the audience? Put it on Jordan.
There's no way they can see it. It's not close enough. but
Right.
yeah,
And
it's
dude,
just a white
I
piece of paper.
had it in my hand
I'll
and I
have it-
couldn't figure out what it was.
I'll have it if you guys sign up to the Up Late, you'll get all this extra, the extra footage, the extra shit. I do a little analysis, all that stuff will be there. There's a lot of photos, but yeah, that's what I got, and I was just like, I don't He kept writing on it. He kept writing and writing, like he kept extrapolating and getting more and more technical and more information. And that's why it's like a pirate map, because he kept drawing these graphs and being like, this is you, and this is this life cycle, and this is how you push people out, and this is where you should be, and you should be up here, but you're down here, and like, it was just insane. It was torture.
Did you read any of this material?
Well, I'm skimming through some of it now. I think
after that harrowing experience, I wouldn't be surprised if he was like, "Nah, this."
I think I glanced at the one about cocaine, because I'm like, what new takes do they have on cocaine?
What was the take?
I think it was like, it's
Not
bad.
as bad
for
as
you.
ADHD.
Yeah, look at this classic Scientology. Can you see this? You can't see it.
No, they can't see anything.
In rank of deadliness, bullets. Ping! The top are the drugs. And
Hey, well, they're not wrong, probably.
Well, I'm not pro drugs.
Oh my
I'm not
god,
pro
this
big
is so
pharma.
funny.
I'm not pro big pharma, but like they're saying,
in rank of deadliness, there's a small bullet, and then just the bullet keeps getting bigger. At some point, it becomes one of those massive sniper bullet. But the biggest one is just a pill called drugs. No, not just any drugs. Psychiatric drugs.
Psychiatric drugs.
Psychiatric drugs
I'm
have
not
been
saying-
linked to shootings, tragedies at Fort Hood Army Base and Washington, D.C.
I'm not denying that. I'm not
maybe
denying that.
maybe it's not the guns. Maybe
Dude,
it's
I'm
the
not-
drugs.
I'm not denying it, and I'm all out. I hate toxins as well. Like, this is the danger. If Jordan went, he'd be a Scientologist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they'd be like, you
I
ranked.
always think that.
Yeah.
And you know what else I also think? I truly do think this.
Yeah, they'll tell Jordan.
Even
after Tom Cruise dies, you're the
Scientology
prophet.
people that were in it for 20 years, and they're always saying, I hated it, it was a cult, it was really scary and oppressive,
Yeah.
but I owe my acting career to it.
Yeah.
I think that they definitely do teach you.
Oh, I don't know, Jordan. The
self-
first
Sure.
page.
No, they do, but
I think Scientology is for you. Literally, the first page says, "How to Win an Argument" by L. Ron Hubbard.
amazing. Yeah. read it.
All right, I've got to read this out, actually.
Yeah,
God,
read it out.
It's pretty quick as well.
Read
really
it. Let's,
Alright, read
let's
it.
hear what Elron
Let's say
says,
it's a
because
good
like I
writer
just got
because it's all about
abused.
simplicity.
I just got abused. That's all that happened to me. But yeah, go on.
It is not entirely just to say that psychiatrists
In the
and
mic, in the mic.
psychologists have no technology. True, they can cure nothing and cannot change anyone for better or worse, and as a result have to kill difficult patients. But they do have one piece of technology. This is concerned with winning arguments. Anyone who disagrees with their planned totalitarian rule is pronounced insane. He is... See, this is why, because this man was insane. He was just like, I don't need your game. He just left an insane asylum and started a religion.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone who disagrees with their people they cannot get their hands on, but who exist in literature or legend, they also pronounce as insane. Barry Goldwater was labeled. Of course, this guy's a fan of Goldwater.
Who's that?
That makes a lot of sense.
Who is he?
Barry Goldwater is the guy that really tanked for the Republican Party. I think he won like maybe one state.
Oh,
I think this was
shit.
against, if I'm not mistaken, Carter, was it? Could have been. No.
Not too. I can't. I don't know.
Neither do I, but like, yeah, he was. No, it would have been a lot old. It was been like the 50s or something. Whittaker Chambers was dubbed a psychopathic personality. Woodrow Wilson was declared a megalomaniac. Even Jesus Christ, when the psychiatrists declared religion barred their way of world control, was called a born regenerate with a fixed delusional system. Maybe. Manifesting a paranoid clinical picture, it is hardly conceivable people can even question the accuracy of the diagnosis. In other words, psychologists and psychiatrists do have a piece of technology. Anyone who is ever out of the idea of the social norm is labeled as crazy. This at once dispossesses of the fellow, of course. It invalidates his views and gets them out of the road of psychiatric progress towards the total state. There are only two things odd about this technology. One is it is only used on people who speak of freedom or whose views oppose psychiatric ambitions. The other is that it cannot be called new.
Even though a lot of Latin is employed to make the point, it is difficult to find any difference between this technology and that employed by little boys. As almost anyone has known, devoid of all Latin terms, when two little boys can't agree on some vague point little boys disagree about, one or the other, since caveman times, has always tried to end the argument with, "You're crazy." Could it be in their whole technology? Has it ever really advanced beyond that of the neighborhood bully? He's got some points.
He's got some points.
He's becoming a Scientologist.
This further.
Yeah, he does
All
have
right,
some
well,
points.
On top of that, I hear that his science fiction books are pretty good.
Well,
We're going to continue
I'm
to
sure.
talk about this on the Upload, so make sure to become a patron
Sign
if
up.
you aren't.
I'm opening
And,
the DVDs now.
and we're going to end this with showing our audience Jordan's FunZone.
His own
Actually, Jordan,
Scientology.
can you do... Okay. Miss,
Shit.
when I tell you, can you
Yeah.
hit number 2, all right?
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Tell me when. Oh, I'm so ready. I can't believe he got it. Yep.
Boom.
All right, you are.
That's Jordan's fish tank. And this is
Fuck. Jesus. How good to us talking about Das Kapital and that's in the office. Fuck.
snake tank.
Fuck. Give a review. Are you doing it?
Hey, go back to one.
Oh my God. It's so good.
Oh my God, he is good.
Anyways, thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next.
With this, Ali.
You can't sign up for that.
Wait, just put the camera on me.
Put it back on him. He'll do the outs. He'll do the final thought.
I just have to say this.
2.
Ready? Sign up for our upload for more content. Now excuse me while I kiss the sky.
See you guys.